Hi guys, Black is here. And I really should put this on OnlyFans, but I get more views if I put it on YouTube, okay? I had a conversation with a young man a few days ago that I've heard this before, but I hadn't heard it in a while, so it was kind of interesting. I was talking to this guy. I saw him walking. I stopped, started talking to him. He was 23 years old, slim, brown skinned black guy. And we were just talking. And I came on to him and he told me that I asked him when was the last time he had relations with a man. And he said that it had been about 3 years. And he said that it's not something he thinks about ever. He said he don't think about it. He said it's like when a man stops him and start talking to him on that level, he said he gets turned on. And it's like he can't say no. But if he's not being approached, he said he don't think about it. He said whenever he, like just say if he mess around with somebody, he said he'll think about it for about maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, but after that he'll forget about it. And it don't come across his mind until the next time someone stops him. He told me his first time being stopped, he said he was 17. He dropped his brother off at his grandmother's house and he was walking back home and he was stopped and approached by a man, and the guy offered him $75 to Monica Lewinsky. Okay, so he went to the guy's house and this guy, did the transaction. And he said that he asked the guy, he told me that he had never been with the guy before. And he didn't think that he was going to be excited. He was like, do I still get the $75 if I'm not excited? And the guy told him, he says, well, do you get excited when you with a girl? And he's like, yeah. And he says, well, you're going to get excited with me. But he said he didn't really think he would. But he said when the guy started the participation, he became excited. And he completed his trip to the promised land. So the guy dropped him back off and gave him his number, and he said he threw the number away because he's like, he's never going to do that again. So he said he don't really remember how much longer it was. He said it was probably a year later, but he really don't remember. And he was stopped by another guy. He's walking down the street or whatever, and the guy asked him the same thing again. He said, but this guy was a lot lower. He said the guy offered him $35. And he told the guy, no, I do it for 75. And the guy was like, 75? Hell no. The guy drove off. And he was like, well, damn. So he said, again, some months later, he never really keep track of the time he's walking down the street. And another guy, the same thing, stopped him and was like, hey man, how old are you? He told him, he was like, hey, I'll give you $35 if you allow me to participate. And the guy, he was like, can I get 50? And the guy was like, no, man, I can't do 50. I can do 35. So he was like, okay, fine. So he said they went and parked somewhere, and the guy, he asked the guy the same thing. He's like, man, if I don't get excited, do I still get the money? The guy was like, yeah. So they parked, the guy participated. Again, he reached the promised land. And the guy, again, hey man, here's my number. If you want to do this again, give me a call. He said, again, he threw the number away. Oh, I left out a part. He said that the first guy, when he threw the number away, he said about maybe a month later, he had a dream about that. And he said he thought, I could use $75, so he wished that he hadn't threw away the guy's number. Well, anyway, so he said he was like, man, I ain't never doing that again. I don't care. I ain't never doing that again. So he said some months later, he walking down the street, and another guy stops him, hey, I give you $35 to participate. And he was like, he said the part where he said he would never do it again, He said he just forgot all about that. And he was like, okay, he got in the car, they went somewhere, and once again, the deed was done, right? And this time, see, this guy didn't give him his phone number. He was like, man, to himself, man, I ain't never doing this again. Even though he enjoyed it. He said he enjoyed every bit of it. He said he felt like a king when the guy was performing or whatever. So anyway, he said the guy dropped him off, and he's like, man, never doing this again. Again, several months later, he's walking down the street. He said he was always walking, and somebody stopped him again. He said this time it was a white guy. And he said the white guy, he had never been with the white guy before, but he said that the white guy didn't really look like he would hurt him or kill him. Or he said the guy didn't seem racist or anything. So the guy was like $40. So he got out of the car and they went, and on top of that, he said the guy was driving a county vehicle. And he was like, he said he didn't say anything, but he's thinking like, damn, you think the guy would do it in his personal vehicle, but he didn't. So anyway, he went to park and they completed the transaction again. And he said that he really couldn't tell the difference between the black guy and the white guy. But anyway, this guy gives him the phone number, and he decided that this time he was going to keep the number. But he said he never called the guy. And then I came along. I was his fifth pickup or whatever. Like I said, we didn't do anything. We just talked. COVID I used to do that a whole lot some years ago. Gas prices went up. Actually, gas prices I think it was 2004 when it first went up to $4 a gallon. That shut that down because I couldn't afford to. And since then, I've lost the desire. I used to think that I would find somebody. First of all, I used to go out and pick up a lot of guys. And only about maybe once, maybe twice a week. I think about once a week, maybe twice, but never in the same night. I mean, like once I, finished the deed, I didn't felt the need again for, like I said, several days later. I've heard of some people who would go out multiple times per night. The guy I told y'all about I met in Tennessee a few weeks ago when I was at work, he talked to me about he would go out multiple nights, or he would go hang out at the adult video club in the parking lot and would mess around with several people the same night. That's another reason why I didn't want him to touch me. That to me is too much activity. I don't want to be around somebody who messes around that much because they're nasty. They too freaky, and it's just too much stuff going around. I don't want none of that. But anyway, why did I bring that up? Oh yeah, there were a few guys. For instance, most of the guys, once we was done, I never heard from them. But there were a handful of guys that I messed around multiple times. For instance, I don't think I've ever told you guys about a guy named Paul. I met Paul. He was a little short, skinny, dark-skinned guy. Paul was a liar, right? And I quickly realized he mentioned that he had been to, we said something about prison. He was talking about he was in prison, and I asked him what prison was he in, and he named the prison that I was in. And then I asked him that he knew several officers, and he had no idea who I was talking about. So I figured he was lying. But anyway, Paul and I, we ended up going to the movies. I think we went out to dinner. We messed around, but then he gave I think I gave him my number. He called me. We ended up going to the movies, and it was the first time I'd ever met a guy and took him to the movies, And I think we went out to eat. I don't remember where, but it was weird because I was with a 100% straight guy, But I remember we went into the restroom, to use the restroom, and he showed me something that sort of kind of turned me off. He was wearing women panties. And I guess he thought that was supposed to turn me on, but it did not. It turned me off. But anyway, I found out Paul was a crackhead. Paul called me one time, asked me for some money for like a martyr card or something. And I gave him the money for that. And then he gonna call me a few days later talking about he had lost the martyr card and could I buy him another? And that's when I realized, you know what, this fool is on some dumb stuff. So I had to cut Paul loose quick. And I remember he called me a few days later begging me to give him some money. And like Paul was a top, right? But back then I wanted to top him. And he wasn't with it because the garage was too small. And that day he was like, man, I'll let you park your F-150. I just let you park. You just do what you want to do. And I'm like, dude, don't even try me like that, man. And it just the fact, back then I didn't want him to do the crackhead. Nothing to do with a drug addict. I didn't like people who smoke weed, but I had more respect for a person who smoked weed than a person who smoked crack. And he smoked crack. And I ain't want nothing to do with that. But anyway, the longest person I've ever had a relationship with was this last guy. I met like, more than 10 years. Well, I was 34, so it's been probably 15 years ago. I made a video I talked about where I said my ex looked like Homie in the Hellcat. I got a video on YouTube. I will link it if I forget, somebody remind me. But anyway, I met him some years ago. He ended up, I think we ended up, I don't know that we messed. Anyway, I met him, and I've known him ever since. I haven't seen him in years. Actually, he's locked up now in jail for doing something he didn't have no damn business. Well, we still talk, But yeah, he's the longest person I've ever known. I used to always want to meet somebody. I used to wonder, why can't I just meet somebody and just kick it with them? But you know what? I've come to realize that I just don't have some people have personality. Some people have that personality where you just want to be around that person. Unfortunately, I'm not that kind of person. I don't have that personality. And it's like the people who want to hang around me are either really, really freaky or don't want to wash. I don't know, for some reason, people who don't like to wash sometimes like to hang around me, or people who don't want to brush their damn teeth love to hang around me, but the majority of my time by myself, it is what it is. I like saying that because, it explains it. There's no other way to explain it, And here's my neighbor walking by, and I know he think I'm crazy. I'm standing here looking out the window talking. He probably, I don't know, he might be able to see the camera. But anyway, he's walking his dog, such a slim, sexy, I can't say young man because he's not young. He's about 45, something like that. Anywho, hope you don't see this video. But hell, he know I'm gay. Does he know I like him though? I don't know. Anywho, he has a bunch of tattoos on his arm that every time I see it, it turns me off, man. But whatever. Anyway, what was I talking about? So yeah, I always wanted to meet somebody, but just never did. I think it's the personality, because I knew a guy named Larry. Larry was as big as a damn house. Larry was 400 pounds if nothing else. Larry always had a bunch of guys hanging around him. He always had somebody staying with him. I remember Larry had a guy who, he had a couple guys staying with him. There was a third guy who wanted to live with him, but he was like, it's too many people. And so he told the guy, why don't you stay with my friend Black? So I came over to meet the guy, and the whole time the guy was looking at me like, you know, whatever, man. You know, I mean, I can only be who I am. I can't be nobody else. But by the way, Larry, that's enough. I had to put that on. I have to put that one on OnlyFans. Larry was 400. Is the first and only 400-pound guy I participated with. It was just a. How can I say it? I was just a handyman, nothing else, just a handyman. And I mean, he reached the promised land, and I remember it was sort of kind of gross to me. But you know, put it this way, I have this belief that you should help a friend out. You know, even if it's if it's not too gross, that is. If it's not too gross, if it's not too much of an effort, help a friend out. You know, I mean, if it's something simple like, I can always wash my hands. You know, it's not like it was razor blades or sharp objects. I just had to wash my hands afterwards, you know, so it's not a real big deal. But he really enjoyed it, you know. There was an when I was in Cobb County Jail, it was in 95, so I was 24 years old. There was a guy who wanted to be my roommate. He was an older guy. He was like 42, 44, something like that. And then he was broke wrist. And I thought to myself, well, he just wanted to do this right here. That was it. He just, while he was playing with his transmission, shifting gears or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you know, again, it's not like he had razor blades on his hands or sharp nails. So, you know, I'm like, okay, you know, whatever. It was the grossest thing. It was extremely gross. When it was done with, I left out of his cell and I'd never go back in his cell. And the funny thing was there was other guys that loved being in his cell. I was not one of them. But anyway, I guess that's about it. I don't want to talk about nothing else. I can't really think about nothing else either. Actually, I can, but I have to tell y'all about the time. Well, I never really seen it. I was friends with a hermaphrodite for a while, but I never seen the products. I knew a guy who had seen. He explained to me what was going on down there. From my understanding, there was a hot dog, and below the hot dog was a bun. A bun or pie, or whatever you want to call it. And that was it. You know, the thing was, this guy, his name was Jasmine. Her name was Jasmine or whatever. Whenever he got arrested, because the first time I met him, I met him in Cobb County Jail. And his boyfriend was actually in there also. Well, a guy who he had dated. And I never saw the products, but the guy told me that's what it was. It was a sausage. Below the sausage was a pie crust, or bun, or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, whenever he was arrested, of course, they would always put him in the men part of it. The prison. They all put him in the men part of it because of the sausage. But I would have liked to seen what that looked like, but Jasmine was not the prettiest mother in the world. He was really skinny. He looked like he was ugly as hell. Real skinny, ugly as hell, but I wonder if he's still living. Because he always looked like he was about to die. You know, like he had something or whatever. But I wonder if this, maybe I don't know his last name. I just knew the first name was Jasmine. But anyway, it's Dre. Y'all have a good day. Hope I didn't gross you out too bad. Bye.